Writing systems all over the world tend to go from pictographic to sonographic. That is, they start out as pictures of physical objects or as images that represent ideas, and they gradually switch over the centuries to coding for sounds instead of images and ideas. This has happened in both the West and the East. Egyptian hieroglyphics, for example, began as pictures, but drawing complicated pictures one at a time took a long time, so the pictures were compressed and abbreviated by priests who needed a quicker way to write on papyrus. This new writing system was called hieratic, priest writing. Around the same time, another system called demotic, from the Greek word demos for popular, or the people, we get the word democracy from the same root word, evolved as an even more abbreviated shorthand to allow scribes and ordinary people to write the Egyptian language very quickly. Demotic is the second of the three writing systems used on the Rosetta Stone. The first is Egyptian hieroglyphs, the second is demotic, the third is Greek. The Rosetta Stone helped people figure out the meaning of hieroglyphs because the same speech was recorded in all three languages. People knew how to read the ancient Greek, so they used that to figure out the demotic and the hieroglyphs. As hieroglyphs were being compressed into simpler forms, they were also beginning to be used to just make the sounds of the words that they had originally represented. The hieroglyph for the word water, for example, looks like this. It was pronounced mu. Over time, this same symbol came to be used to represent the sound mu, not with the meaning of water, just the sound alone. What had been a picture of an object became a code for a sound. The Phoenicians, who used a few of the many thousands of Egyptian hieroglyphs as the basis for their new alphabet, dropped the pictographic meaning altogether and just used the symbols to represent sounds. They borrowed the Egyptian mu symbol for water and used it to make the m sound, the M sound. The Greeks then adopted this letter, and the Etruscans took it from the Greeks to make their alphabet. Then the Romans took it from the Etruscans, and that's why these up and down squiggles represent the M sound to us now, many thousands of years later. We say m because the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph for water had this shape and sound, mu. This same kind of transformation occurred in Asia as well. Chinese characters were ideographic. They were used to represent ideas. Over time, however, they came to be borrowed, then changed and used entirely for their sound, just as had happened to Egyptian hieroglyphs. But this didn't happen in China, it happened in Japan. Around the year 391, Chinese characters were introduced to Japan by the Koreans. A century later, some Chinese characters began to be used for their sound instead of their meaning. A couple centuries after that, this practice evolved in Japan into a system called manyogana. About 4 dozen of the 50,000 Chinese characters were picked to represent sounds, and over time these characters were written more quickly and more fluidly. This way of writing whole characters with only 1 or 2 strokes is called cursive writing. The quickest and most condensed form of cursive is known as grass hand, in which the brush does not leave the paper while writing the character, and sometimes continues into the next character without lifting the brush from the paper. Over time, this quick way of writing was adopted by women in Japan who were forbidden by law from learning formal kanji, genuine Chinese characters. To get around this law and communicate with each other in writing, they came up with their own writing system called hiragana, which means flat, false name, or loosely translated, squashed fake characters. Whereas Chinese characters are square, blocky, and complicated, hiragana uses a very soft, liquid, flowing, rounded, abbreviated form of characters that have sounds only attached to them, not meaning. So hiragana is based on Chinese characters. Here is the Chinese character for increase or add, for example. It shows a voice, the open mouth, being strengthened. Someone is adding their voice to the shouting. This character was used as one of the basic sound characters. In Mandarin, this character is pronounced jia. It was shortened into this shape, which is pronounced ka in Japanese. This is a very common particle in Japanese. You add it to the end of a sentence to make a question. Other Chinese characters were also changed. Here is the Chinese character for vertebrae, the bones of the spine, pronounced lu in Mandarin. This was shortened to lo in hiragana. This is the character heaven in Chinese. In Mandarin, it's pronounced tian. This character became te in hiragana. And this is the character that originally showed a sai leaving the body. It's sometimes used as a word for is. It's pronounced nai in Mandarin, and it was shortened into the most recognizable of all Japanese characters. This is the hiragana character no, which makes the possessive form in Japanese. It's just like apostrophe s in English. If you want to say Japanese hiragana, you'd say Nihon no hiragana, Japan's hiragana. This system of using characters to represent sounds instead of ideas caught on in Japan. One of the great classics of Japanese literature, Genji Monogatari, The Tale of Genji, was written by a woman, Murasaki Shikibu, in the 11th century entirely in hiragana. In Japanese, when you know how to say the word, but you don't know the kanji character, the Chinese character for the word, you just spell it out. You write out the sounds using hiragana. Hiragana is also used to write the grammar particles that come at the beginning or end of most Japanese words. Eventually, the Japanese created another sound-based writing system called katakana, which means fragment false name, or loosely translated broken apart fake characters. In katakana, you can write the same 46 sounds, the same 46 syllables as in hiragana, but you use different characters to do so. For the most part, the same Chinese characters that were used to make hiragana were also used to make katakana. But in katakana, instead of writing the Chinese characters quickly and slurring the strokes together, they broke the Chinese characters apart and just used pieces of them to represent the sounds. So whereas hiragana has a flowing, rounded look to it, katakana has a sharp, simple, angular look to it. For example, the character for a sai being exhaled, nai, in Mandarin, became the rounded character no in hiragana. In katakana, however, the same Chinese character was used as the basis, but instead of writing the character quickly, the leg of the character was broken off and used to represent the sound no in katakana. The Chinese character li, which was rounded into the hiragana character lo, in katakana instead had its top yanked off to make the katakana character lo. You write it with an R, but you pronounce it more like an L. And the Chinese character for woman, ni, which was rounded into the hiragana character mei, in katakana instead had its legs broken off to represent the same sound, mei. Hiragana and katakana are not alphabets, they are syllabaries. Almost all characters code for a whole syllable, a combination of a consonant and a vowel together. Letters code for either just a consonant or just a vowel, so hiragana and katakana characters are syllables, not letters. You can write the exact same sounds, the same syllables in both hiragana and katakana, but hiragana characters and katakana characters look very different because people wrote out the Chinese characters quickly to make hiragana and broke the Chinese characters apart and used the fragments to make katakana. Katakana is used these days to represent words that come in from other languages, words like chocolate, chocoleito, or cake, keiki, are written in katakana. And hiragana and katakana show that, amazingly, in both the Western world and the Eastern world, writing systems that evolved independently of each other moved over the centuries from pictographic and ideographic, representing objects and ideas, to sonographic, representing sounds.